Oh, hi there. Definitely a few months after the comp, but I'm going to try taking you through my time through the April 11th RABID comp, my bots, and thus the see me on my bots. So I hope they'll enjoy this video. Since this is my first video, I'm going to introduce you to my fleet real quick. My flagship bot is Sulsaga, a 4-wheel drive vertical spanner based on Sarabe from Symphogear. If they're new here, I'm going to warn you, I'm big into Slinky's SS Symphogear. All my bots are based on it. I'm currently on version 5 of her, and I ran the exact same design as I did at Macro just over a month before. Version 5 is a bit more narrow than version 4 for weight reasons, a bit more rounding of a chassis, and instead of the foam wheels I used to run, so now I use Viaflex cast wheels. My other bot is Ame no Habakiri. Seeming-wise, he's based on Tsubasa from Symphogear. Design-wise, he's based on Beal-weight Breakneck Yan. So he's basically a Beal-weight weapon system subbed into a plastic ant-weight, but the current design is, not going so well. I'm actually not entering her into this comp because I need to figure out an indirect drive belt system, and that's going to be a bit more like Nan than she started, but it's not quite completed that. And as of this comp, a new bot is entering the fleet. Interesting story. Corey, the founder of RABID, was trying to get rid of his Ferryweight Rewind because it had caught on fire and was stinking up his toolbox. Side note, little fun fact, my first ever comp in this sport was borrowing another of Corey's bots called VHS. Anyways, he wanted to give Rewind a new home and wanted to give it to someone who doesn't fight in the weight class and wants it to be competing still. So it was free-ish under the condition it actually competes. I didn't have all the parts to get going. Another builder, Joss, was also interested, and the gaps in what we had somehow lined up to get a full working bot. So we now co-own a Ferryweight, and being the Symphogear fan, I kind of took naming rights, and now it is Nehuston. In fact, we're actually going to start off our story talking about Nehuston because, as I mentioned, it was previously on fire and I did not have it until I actually arrived at the venue. So I wanted to see what state it was in, and probably not the smartest thing to do knowing what happened to it, but I tried turning it on just to see how functional it was. Immediately one of the ESCs started smoking glowing orange. I immediately powered it off, and looks like the ESCs were actually partially melted and fused together. I replaced the ESCs. Was a bit tricky to do inside the bot, so this kind of took into the first fight, but I got it up and running afterwards, and it's somehow 5 grams underweight. But this seems like a good time to talk about Matt's one, Sulsaga versus Nightmare Broccoli. Nightmare Broccoli looks to be one of the Turnbot lifter designs, and even if it's an open source design as a lifter, I should not underestimate any opponent. I just went at them, and right away I ripped off one of their wedges, and then I ended up ripping off one of the parts of their lifter, and flipped them over, and 1v tap out. Which is good, because that means I didn't take much damage, and just had to swap out to a new battery, and could continue working on Houston. Match 2, Sulsaga versus Spurn Reminder. This one was great, maybe my favorite fight of the whole day that I had. So, the fight starts off, lots of back and forth. I get to their sign, and the cast wheels are continuing to be a good upgrade because I'm getting that pushing traction I want. I think Spurn Reminder sped up their weapons since I start losing these weapon-to-weapon exchanges. And I also realize I'm not self-riding in this cage as well as I was in all my tests and at Macro. But if the tip speed war is what they want, I'm down to oblige. I usually don't give full beans, and even now I'm only going like 85 to 90%. I start winning some of these weapon-on-weapon engagements, not all of them though. I end up losing one of my forks, which I'm not going to let that stop me. I ripped off one of their weapons, which seemed to have not only taken away some of their ground game, but also hurt their stability. They're now bouncing off the ground and have to slow down their weapon. I keep my weapon spun up and keep targeting that compromised side because it's clearly working. I keep going at them, and hear the countdown coming in. I try and stay on them because when that countdown gets to 5, I just pin the rest of the match, and that's what I end up doing. Was a bit worried going into the judge's decision with how the start of the fight went, but the results are in. Sulsega wins by judge's decision. Thankfully, all that I lost was one of my fork mounts and the fork being ripped out of it, so I just replaced it and then just gave it to the other builder. Okay, this next fight actually isn't one of mine, but since it's important to the story of the day, I'm just going to include it anyway. Because I did all the repairs and didn't want to just hog the bot all day, Josh drove to Houston against Amputator. Well, I guess this is going fine so far. I mean, Amputator has a big, massive titanium wedge, which isn't ideal if they're horizontal, but we're doing fine. Okay, we got flipped alright, and the screw end on the motor snaps off. Okay, well, we still have one out. Never mind then. Well, that didn't go so well. But since I got the bot in the cage and did all the repairs last time, now it's Josh's turn to repair it for its next fight against... Wait, hold up. Against Wackus Bonkus? That's his fairy weight. Well, we got extra repair time since Houston wins by forfeit against Wackus Bonkus. Match 4, or is that match 3? Whatever. Either way, it's Sulsega versus Ultraviolet. I faced this bot back in November, and I did not win that one, but learned maybe I should be using the long forks against it. CC does not want to flip back over in this case. Well, the longer forks do seem to be working much better than the standard forks I get good popping. After some attempts fending off attacks, one of my drive sides was knocked out of place, the motor, the drive gear were popped up, out of line, and the entire back of the motor was popped off. So I'm crab walking at this point. Was kind of working for a bit, but then the other motor just dies. I found out later the back of that motor was partially popped off too. The motor that was barely hanging on tried to do a little as I read my weapon, but the gears were just too out of place to get any kind of engagement. So, in trying to do so, that motor completely burns out, I get counted out, Ultraviolet wins by KO. So as I mentioned in the recap, but the dance here was both the driving motors had the backs pop off, one of them popped out of place, out of its mount. Another fork mount is out, but since I only have one more at this point, I had my soldering iron out anyway to replace the motor, so I'm just going to melt that fork mount back together and hope that works. Match 5, Nahus versus War Monkey, and
2, 1, fight.
Did I just inject a weapon more as soon as I spun it up? I guess this is why Josh was asking about the eclipse we didn't have. Oh no. Whatever, this is where I apply what I learned driving Ami no Habakiri and just drive with one weapon, even if the bristles aren't set up the right way to do that. And I just have to tink, tink, tink against the wall. Wait, hold up. Did I just hear that right?
Oh.
No. Did someone make a Crazy Frog reference? No, not Crazy Frog.
Run him over.
Anyway, I free myself from the wall, but not enough and throw myself at... Are you kidding me? I'm stuck on my back, and the outrun can is now not even over the stator. Well, that's count out. War Monkey wins by KO, but I can't even be annoyed at the, everything in that fight. That was hilarious. If I couldn't have a good fight, at least I have a funny one. Match 6, Sulsega versus Sanorama. I keep with the long forks and initially tried to get a hit at the wide parts and try to pop it up. It turns out that spins the bot towards me. I go for more than chassis and trade a couple weapon-to-weapon hits, and in all of that, the back of the motor that popped off against Ultraviolet wasn't exactly popped back on enough and pops right back off. So now I'm down drive side early, and with my fork mounts jammed up and broken, my forks are just not doing anything, so I'm kinda toast here. I'm not tapping out time, so even with no ground game and one drive side, I'm still going to keep the fight going. Even if he's struggling to self-right with 2 working drive sides and no chance with just one, I'm not going to tap out. But at this point, all the damage from the day just adds up. And Sarama rips open my chassis. The axle for my back wheel just falls out and the motors pop upwards once again, but not just from a broken zip tie this time. It's from a broken chassis. Well, I'm cooked. That gear is not even engaging with the front way. I don't have enough drive to not get counted out. Sarama wins by KO. Well, that's just plain. Still second, I was on a hell of a run the first two fights, but everything fell apart after that. I think at this point I'm still going to stick with the V5 platform for now, but change my drive to being spur gears like I originally did back in version 2. Both because I don't think he has the speeds he needs, so I need to change up my gear ratio, but also just bare tooth engagement. The herringbone wheels were slipping a lot, and even when they were in line, I'm not sure I was getting as much translation as I wanted to out of them. Need to see what I'm doing as far as weight to redo my burrow bounce and redo just keeping the motors down with not zip ties. And redesign my fork mounts so they're not just breaking every fight. But our day is not done. Even if I was out of spare drive motors for Soul Saga, I brought along Ami no Habakiri to rumble. What could possibly go wrong throwing a bot that I didn't feel confident enough to throw into the bracket into the cage with a bunch of other bots? Well, I just kind of sent it. The good news is I did not find a way to eject the weapon off the motor again. The bad news is I think she lost some motor phase based on how she was moving. Spoiler alert, she did. Stupidly, I just kind of left her in, just trying to keep going, and I was just sitting dead in the corner the whole time, trying to spin a motor out of phase. Thank you for watching. Please comment if you have any feedback, since this is my first time trying something like this. Let me know if you want to see something like this for my next comp or any future comps that I go to. And with that, bye for now.